It's great to have my good friend, Mr. Ron Partlow, on the Call of the Iron. He's the voice of Mutant, a podcast host, the co-owner of West Coast Iron, coach, and an all-round good guy. Ron, big Ron, we first met on Mutant on a Mission in, when was this, son?
I think it was 2014.
2014?
Yeah, I think 2014. I walked in the gym to shoot Mutant on a Mission, and that's when we met for the first time. And it was like on camera, like, like we met like on camera. So it was that was a great experience, that first episode.
It was, mate, and I got to be honest, I was really nervous about you coming down, and I thought, I thought I was just a YouTube dude. Who the F's this guy? But we just hit it off straight away. I think you was testing me out at first, even what I knew and what I didn't know, and all the rest of it. And then we got the same passion. But what first got you into bodybuilding? Because I could see when you walked into the gym, you was looking at the machines, the pictures on the wall. We were the same. So what got you into bodybuilding? With me, it was Charles Atlas. I remember seeing the little clipping in my dad's newspaper, and I thought, I'm gonna start doing all this isotension bullshit, and nothing happened.
Right.
But what got you into bodybuilding, Ron?
Well, I often say that I was 13 years old, and I was watching the late night with my dad, and Conan the Barbarian came on.
Oh, okay.
And it was like the midnight movie. It was like the Saturday night midnight movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the sword fighting. It was like, as a kid, obviously the movie's great anyways. But the scene where he's pushing the wheel, the wheel of pain.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
in
of
the
course.
movie, and he grows up and evolves into Arnold. And I remember just being in awe, and so I often say that, and I said to my dad, I want to look like that. And my dad goes, well, that would take you 10 years. You'd have to go to the gym every single day. So you better start now. He must be at least 240 pounds or whatever he said, And so that was I was like, oh, okay. If I have to go to the gym every day, then I'll start lifting the weights in the basement. And I started lifting the weights in the basement immediately when I was 13. And then I joined the gym when I was 14, which is just a few months later. But that was my start. But now that, I've been asked that question a lot of times, I have to add that I also vividly remember watching The Incredible Hulk on TV.
Yeah.
And so I grew up on a farm, so we only had 2 channels, and the city kids had cable, right? So if I went to a city friend's house on the weekend, I'd be like, oh, Incredible Hulk's on Friday night at 8, can we watch that? They have the channels, And then obviously, I think, I was a big fan of pro wrestling by the time I was 11. I was a Macho Man fan and a Hulk Hogan fan, and the Ultimate Warrior came around. And so I think pro wrestling was just as huge of an influence on the physique part of it, because that era of the 80s, everyone looked really good, right? There was always the classic, no drug testing, that was the 80s wrestling, right?
And what was your first memories of actually going into the gym? What was your first going into a commercial gym? I mean, I remember when I was going to a gym, it was called the Fordham Gym, and I walked down to the slope down the gym, and there was no music back in those days, and I could smell the deep heat and the Raljecks and all those, all the muscle rubs they were wearing back in the day. And the overwhelming heat as I got closer to the door, and there was a lady. She was sitting on a little desk similar to this, with a little tin. You had to pay 50 pence to walk in, and I looked through and I could see these bare-chested men who, to me, were just Adonises. And I thought, "Fuck this!" And I went to walk back out, and as I come up the slope to walk back away because I was shitting myself, these 2 dudes come walking out. I thought, I'm gonna have to go in, and I went in there, and it was the longest time I took ever to get into my training kit. I was absolutely scared to death to come out of the changing room, to go into a commercial gym, not knowing where the machines were, if I even fitted in. I felt, like nothing. So what was your first impression of going to a proper commercial gym?
Well, I was pretty lucky because, looking back on it, I started in a pretty great gym. I think it's one of the reasons why I like the gyms I like now. and it was just a fitness center, but it had
What
a
was it called?
crowd.
What was it called, Ron?
It was called, well, it was actually, when I joined it, it was a world gym.
Okay.
Um, and then they dropped the franchise right after that, and it was like Grand Prairie Family Fitness Center or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
But whatever the name, and then it was Maximum Fitness, you know. So
yeah.
whatever they changed the name to try to market it, it was like kind of it was like had a pretty hardcore crowd. Like there were some powerlifters in there making noise, and guys squatting 5 plates, and a couple guys that could bench 4 plates in there. And like back in the early '90s, like if your gym had some 4 plate benchers at it, like
Oh
that
my
was like
God, yeah.
legit. Like in 1989, 1990, 1991, those years. So I walked in there, it would have been 1990, and I would have been 14, and I weighed 137 pounds because I remember standing on the scale and I weighed 137, and I remember that vividly. And I remember my buddy, I remember it because my buddy's like, Kate, day one, that's what you weigh. Like I remember that being a thing, you know? And I remember like the equipment. I remember just enjoying I guess there's a little bit of me, part of my love for training is I think I'm kind of mechanically minded. I never like worked on cars much or anything like that,
No,
but
mate.
I liked I liked the like looking at a machine and going, oh, I see it moves like this and that moves your knee joint and that. Like I remember kind of liking the action of moving weights and understanding and right away having a connection with like I'm trying to train this muscle, so I want this bone to move across here. And like even as a young kid, I was aware of that because I came from a martial arts background where like hand positioning and body positioning was absolutely paramount because it was important for your strength and all that stuff. So I knew like,
And
oh, your elbow has to be
what
somewhere,
style of martial
you
art was
know?
that, Ron? What style of martial art
Oh,
was it?
yeah, I did Taekwondo in the 80s for like 3 or 4 years.
Never.
And so that's a lot of kicking, right? A lot of kicking, a
Yeah.
lot of high kicks and stuff. So I really enjoyed like angles and how the body moved and, like, I could look at another person's side kick and go, oh, that person doesn't have a good side kick. They lack power because their hip's not in the right spot. They're never going to be a powerful side kicker. But then I'd look at another kid and go, that kid's got snap. His hip rolls, bam, bam, bam. And so that same mindset was like, hey, I'm in the squat rack now. I have a bar on my back. Like I have to be powerful. Everything's important. I can't, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mindset was there that every single part of what's moving is important, you know? And so I really enjoyed training right off the bat. How can I be better at this? Is the bar moving correctly? I mean, as a young kid, I had those questions in my head, and I don't think that's normal for everybody.
No, no, it certainly wasn't normal for me. For more, it was a visual thing. I mean, I've been to the gym, I don't know, perhaps a few months, and I heard about this show or some type of bodybuilding event, and there was a poster on the wall or in the change rooms. I was too embarrassed to ask anybody, so it was in a little church hall someplace, and I walked there. It took me hours to get there because I couldn't ask my parents for any money. They'd just say, you're joking. So I walked to the place anyway, and sure enough, I got to the front entrance, and I walked in, and then the music came on. There was a guy called Vince D'Alessandro. I hope he watches this. And he came on just under one single light, nothing else, to some, I don't know, some type of gladiatorial music or the planets, Mars or wherever it was, I can't remember. And he stood there with oil on and all the rest of it. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought, how could I possibly be like that? For me, it was always a visual thing, and I was always watching people in the corner of my eye, and they had the rag tops on. You see the upper chest sticking out. I think, how could I
Yeah,
possibly
yeah.
get like that? So it was always a visual thing for
Oh
me.
yeah. That's why that was it. That was it too for me. I mean, I remember the first guy I saw who had like forearms,
Yeah,
you know? I remember I was at that gym, 14 years old, just joined, and there was this guy there who was a bodybuilder. He was like the guy, his name was Norm, and he had done a bunch, apparently he'd like, won his class at a
yeah,
show, so everyone was like, oh, that's Norm, that guy, like he's a bodybuilder.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember seeing him on the bike, riding the bike,
yeah.
and his face was like caved in,
Oh, okay.
like he had the sharp, like late 80s caved in fucking like fish and vegetable face, right? That
Yeah,
guy's
yeah,
dieting hard.
yeah, yeah,
And I met, he had the cut off sweatshirt, as you do,
yeah, yeah.
right? And then the open boat neck, and he was doing cardio. And I just remember his traps and his upper pecs looking like they were made out of stone,
Yeah, yeah.
like like rock. And then his forearms, just holding the bike, just pedaling, watching TV, his forearms were, covered in veins, just like absolutely no skin, like that, absolutely shredded. And I remember just watching him ride the bike and being like, that's, I can't imagine looking more impressive on a bike. Like, it just blew me away, you know? And I knew that, like, that was a lot of hard work. And there was a guy there named Jason. I don't know why I remember his name, but I remember he used to just barbell row, all like his back workout was like barbell rows and chins, barbell rows and chins. And I remember he was like the first guy I saw where he would wear like a stringer tank top,
Yeah.
and his lats came down into his hip. Like, so he'd walk around and these lats would just go right into his pants. And I remember just thinking, like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and of course these guys probably weren't that big in hindsight, but as a 14-year-old kid, like, they were just, I was like, what these guys look fucking awesome, you know? And then the power lifters that were in there deserve credit too, because just like the hollering and screaming and squatting 500 and yelling at each other, and that, like, as a kid, I'm like, oh, this is a place where work is done. Like, this isn't a library.
And
This isn't.
did you ever try the powerlifting side of it? I did. I mean, I've got my.
No, I never. Yeah, I never intentionally, like, I never. Yeah, there you go.
There's my.
I never
boots.
intentionally. I never intentionally did any powerlifting. I trained with them. Like, I remember hopping in and squatting with them once. And I was like, oh, what are we doing? And they're like, just 3 reps racket, add weight, 3 reps racket. Like, they were doing triples that day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I remember like squatting with the powerlifters, but I never did any powerlifting. No.
I mean, I tried it because I thought, I've seen some of the big, powerful physiques, the powerlifters. I thought, well, I'm going to give that a go and try and get the clay on the mould. And I tried it, and I remember joining a powerlifting club. It was called, I can't remember, but anyway. And I got the boots off that guy, Vic Mercer. Actually, Vic Mercer's gym it was called. Anyway, and squatting and the deadlifting. And after about 4 or 5 weeks, he come over to me in the change room, and I thought he was going to say, something great. And he put his arm around me. He goes, "Listen, you might want to go back to bodybuilding." I said, "Oh, okay." So I just took it on the chin. But I was gutted because I thought I wanted to try and lift some big weights, and I was always one of these secretive type of guys, Ron. I don't know about yourself, where I wrote everything down and I wouldn't let anybody see. And was you that type of guy where you wrote you wrote your own programs, or did you ask other people? I always wanted to find out myself.
Totally. So I vividly remember, like, so I started training at the end of grade 9, essentially. Right.
Yeah.
So all through high school,
what age is that?
What we call grade, 14,
Okay.
So then, high school is what we call grade 10, 11, 12. Right. And I graduated when I was 17. So those 3 years of high school, I remember every time there was an issue of Flex Magazine or Muscle and Fitness, I went to like the workouts and I looked at them, and I remember like the odd time there would be one that would be like, okay, I'm going to do this one. Like, I remember, an issue of Muscle Mag or whatever, Flex or Muscle and Fitness. There's like Lee Haney's championship workout.
Yeah.
And it was like his full 6-day split.
That's right.
And it was like an old school Arnold. It was like an Arnold, like 6-day, everything twice, like lots of volume, like probably 15 sets, body part twice a week. And I remember cutting it out, like taking a razor and slicing it out of the magazine, and then putting it into a plastic, the plastic covers.
Yeah.
And making a little 4-page duotang out of it, and I took that to the gym, so I didn't have to carry the whole magazine around. I just had the little like plastic thing, and I would just go through and I'd put it down and do my sets. And I remember that every single workout took at least 2 hours because there were so many sets.
Yeah.
And I went every day, like 6 days a week, So I remember doing that. I remember seeing the ads for like the Bulgarian Power Burst.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember ordering the Bulgarian Power Burst, and it was like these little 20-minute workouts where you do like 2 20-minute workouts and every single day. And every single body part got hit like 3 times a week. It was just little hits, right?
Yeah.
And I remember doing that, and I remember like buying the, bigger muscles in 42 days and Ellington Darden's books,
I
Dr.
had all
Ellington
those.
Darden, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like I did all that shit in those years, in those high school years. I remember when my one buddy did the Cybergenics
I
kit,
did that.
like he got
Franco
Cybergenics, and
Santarelli. What was
and
his
he did
name?
the Cybergenics. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Franco Santarelli, yeah.
Yeah. That.
And so yeah, it was like a magical time where you were writing all that stuff down. I remember I'd sit down and write a program. My mom would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm writing a new program for the next 6 weeks," and I'd write like this new program,
Yeah.
and
Exciting.
I'd try something different. I'd put hamstrings with chest. I'd have like a chest and hamstrings day just oh god, I'd shock the body. Like all the different things you do.
So you embraced the whole thing, just like myself. I mean, I remember when the Barbarian brothers came over to the UK. Peter, I think it was Peter and Paul. I can't remember.
Yeah,
and they had the lumberjack shirt.
David and Paul.
That's it, David and Paul. So for them, for me, and my mate Chris, then for I don't know how many weeks after then, or months after, we were them. So we'd go to the gym in fucking Caterpillar boots and the jeans and the lumberjack, because we actually believed in our heads, if you dress like them, the mindset's like them, you're going to write their work
Oh
out.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So you become the whole thing. I embraced
Dave and
everything.
Peter were,
I embraced every bit of it. What about what about the clothing run? Did you wear all the clothing?
Yeah, so obviously I'm Canadian, so the Gators gym stuff was huge.
Okay.
Remember Gators gym, like Nasser El Somebody wore a bunch of Gators gym stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so Gators gym, there were a few guys that like, they, because they travel into Canada for guest appearances and stuff, they'd have like, they kind of embrace the brand, but Gators gym was like a huge brand in Canada. It was like the California body wear of the USA, and they had the boat neck shirts and the big sweats and the MC Hammer pants with the the insert in the middle, so they were like genie pants, and we trained in those, like the crazy baggies and the bright colors, and we did all that. So I was a real boat neck shirt guy, because I had traps. I was wide, like my clavicles were wide as a teen, and I had traps. And I just remember every time I wore an open neck shirt, everyone would just be like, "Your neck is so fucking huge." Like I remember back in, like, because I was like no neck club, like right away. Like as soon as I started lifting, I was no neck club. I was like yoked out right away. So I'd walk down the hallway in school with my trap sticking out, and of course I was doing like the real shitty like 5-plate shrugs by grade 12. Like I was fucking deadlifting 500 pounds and stuff. So I had these crazy traps in high school.
And I just remember guy?
Like I don't think I'm naturally strong
as a kid,
but I trained real hard and I got pretty strong. Yeah, I mean there were always guys that would like, I think I know what naturally strong guys are like. I would see them. They would like come into the gym casually. They'd party on the weekend and then come and bench 3 plates for reps on Monday. And I'd just be like, fuck, I can't fucking do that. If I go party, I'm fucked. Like, you know what I mean? So I never thought I was naturally strong, but I was strong because I trained real fucking hard. Yeah.
And I remember like walking around the town as a kid, and I'd look at the doorman, because every doorman back in the day was a bodybuilder. And I'd just be like, shit.
Yeah. Used to be every bouncer.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but I'm sure we're going to be okay.
So we'll be fine.
Did you from the get go? Did you? I mean, like myself, I actually believed that I was going to be Mr. Olympia. There was no question in my head that I thought, that's it. This is how I'm going to make my living now. And obviously, I soon realised that my hips were wider than my shoulders, so I was going to be fucked. Did you have any aspirations from the start of actually making it as a bodybuilder and earning a living, just like Arnold or whoever else, or as a kid, or not?
No, I remember always thinking, like, that dream that a lot of people had, like, oh, I'm gonna go to Venice and make it as a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Gonna go to California, make it as a bodybuilder. I remember, like, even at a young age, thinking that was so stupid.
Really?
It's like statistically. I remember just being like, rent in LA is like $2,000 a month for a little shitbox condo. Why would you want to go live there? It's so stupid. These guys are broke. They have no money. Like, it's ridiculous.
Now, I thought
Like,
Joe
I
Wheeler was going to
remember,
call me.
see, I just knew that, like, I thought, well, that's because I had heard stories about how most of the guys there don't have Joe Weider contracts.
Okay, I
Like
never knew
that was
this.
the illusion. Like I knew I wasn't Chris Cormier because I seen what he looked like when he was 18,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And I knew I wasn't Flex Wheeler. So I was like, why would I go to Venice? Like, that's just ridiculous. Everyone else there is just living a rat race and going nowhere. And I don't know. And I remember I went and visited, like I went to see it in 96. I went for a week. And I remember like realizing, I was like, oh, the stuff that goes on at the gym is the only thing that they're here for. Like everything else is like, it doesn't even matter that they're in, like, it's not like there's a bunch of things that they're there for. They're just there to train at Gold's Venice. So like, you know, they have all the normal life problems that you have at home, you know, probably more, surrounded by a bunch of fucking lunatics. I just remember thinking it was like kind of a weird, like, you know, I don't know.
I think the English must be stupid then, because we bought into the whole thing. Because living in a shitty, I don't know, a town like Birmingham, just industrial. I think it was more of a dream, really, for us, Ron, to actually try and get out of there and just feel a bit of sunshine. And do you know what I mean? Actually, do you know what I mean?
That part was intoxicating to a lot of people. And coming from Canada, I could see how like I might have been the oddball out who just didn't feel that way. But yeah, there was a lot of people that I would always get people asked, they're like, so are you going to move to California? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't want to live down there. And then once I went and visited, I was like, you know, I don't know. It just never really drew my attention. I guess I didn't have like, I wasn't like delusional at all. Like I didn't think that I was like the next Mr. Olympia, you know. Plus I was like a Dorian fan. I was like such a huge Dorian fan. He never went to California, so I just remember always thinking like, well, Dorian didn't go to California. He still hasn't gone to California. He's still Mr. Olympia. Oh, he's Mr. Olympia again. Still hasn't moved to California. Oh, he's got 4 now. Still hasn't moved to California. So like, I guess I was such a huge fan of his that's maybe a reason why I thought, it's all bullshit. Dorian can do it.
And isn't it funny, really, how Dorian's now turned out to be a mug?
Yeah. There you go. He is. That's the best mug, by the way. I love that mug.
No, I mean, just slightly digressing. I mean, I know he was a hero of yours or somebody you looked up to. I remember him coming in. I worked at a muscle machine, a gym. I was so lucky to work there. Everybody came in from Bob Parrish to whatever. I mean, we'll talk about this some other time. I'm sure we're going to be on a lot more. But when Dorian came in, I'd seen nothing like it. You know, his calves. I can't even get my words out now. I'd never seen anything like it. And we started training together for a while. But he didn't like Muscle Machine because it was clean, it smelled, you know, we had to polish the equipment for the boss. He hated all that. And he started training with my boss, Ron Davis, a lovely guy. It was like my mentor. And he broke Ron. Ron was on the calf machine. The next minute, Dorian's loading fucking 20s on the top like dominoes. And, you know, Ron's trying to keep up with him. The guy was in a machine. And I think after that day then, I knew myself after training with him only a few times at Muscle Machine before he pissed off back to Temple because Ron was trying to promote him and get him out there, which he did. But obviously Dorian being Dorian. I mean, we'll talk about Dorian at some other time, but it was just Dorian's way or nothing, and that was something to be admired. And even, you know, there's a story, and the Weider office is phoning up Temple saying we want you over there and smiling in the sand and all that, and he goes, well, fucking no. I'll send you some pictures over once a month or every couple of months, and that's all you're going to get, unless I'm over there doing what his shifts anyway. But yeah, so, you know, once I seen somebody like Dorian, you know, it just knocked all the wind out of my sails, and I knew then, okay, I'm going to have to be a gym owner. That's what I'll do now, a gym owner.
Hey, yeah.
So what about for you? And then who was your main motivation while you was training in your mind's eye? Or has it always been about the training for yourself and then trying to judge yourself, say, on how Yates trained and that type of intensity. Because even by today's standards, Ron, you still train hard. You know, you don't go in there and piss about. And I'm sure, I'm sure you must look around at West Coast and think, you know, what are they doing? What they fucking are doing? Just wasting their time.
I still have some grumpy old man. I got some grumpy old man in me a little bit, but I also understand, like, I used to be more like that. You know, I used to be more like, those guys talk when they train. That's what I couldn't, like, I don't know. I used to be more critical of other people's training attitudes or methods or whatever. But I think just because I'm older now and I see things in hindsight, I'm like, you know what, whatever fucking works. Like, you know, I've seen some amazing bodybuilders who spend quite a long time in the gym, and there's a lot of talking and chatting in between sets, and they're looking at their phones. But then when it comes time to do their sets, they're savage. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of like what Lee Priest said once. Like, Lee Priest said, like, oh, you just have to be good at you know, turning it on. I can talk to somebody and tell a joke, and then I flip a switch and squat 4 plates to failure. And I remember thinking Lee Priest was kind of funny when he said that, but now I've seen other people do it. And I'm like, okay, hey, if that works for you, that's cool. That was not the journey for me. There was something about training. I had to see, like, how focused can I get?
Yes.
How insane can I unleash on this set? Like, can I die?
That's
like I remember thinking, like, I wonder if I'm going to die doing one of these sets. Like, just pushing that moment where you kind of almost, and, you know, the leg press starts coming back down on you. Yeah. Like, you wonder, is my heart going to pop one day?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? But I didn't care. Like, I just remember thinking, like, hey, let's just deadlift until our nose bleeds. Like, doing stupid shit like that, you know? And I remember thinking one day I was actually, that's the reason I say it, is because I was deadlifting one time. I was doing 5 sets of 5 at the beginning of my back workout, like a religion. I was trying to get my deadlift up. And I remember thinking, I remember doing 5 sets of 5 with 5 plates. And I remember thinking, I wonder how many sets I'd have to do before, like, you know, I got another nosebleed. Because I remember getting a nosebleed once, deadlifting.
Okay.
And it was just like, that sort of thing went through my head, you know, and I wouldn't quit. I would just put paper towel up there and do another set. Like, so that sort of mentality. I remember putting paper towel up my nose on a leg press dozens of times. Like, oh, I got a nosebleed, go to the bathroom, ram some paper up there, come back, give it an extra few minutes to try to get it to stop. Fuck, I better do another set. I don't want to lose my pump. Do another set. Okay, try to get it to stop. Like, I remember doing that. And I don't know if that's like a punishment thing, or you just think, like, you have to do that in order to get the results you want. I don't know why I was driven to train like that, but that was like a big portion of my life, especially through my 20s and 30s. You know, you calm down a bit when you get older and you start getting injuries. You do, but the mentality through my 20s was 100% it.
Yeah, but I still think there's something about, no matter what age you are, to try and train for that 40 minutes or 50 minutes as hard as you possibly can, within reason, not so much weight-wise, intensity, like myself.
Yeah, intensity, yeah.
There's something more. I don't think I can count the times on one hand, if that I've walked out the gym and thought, what was that about? I've just pride myself on having a great workout, and I find it euphoric. I find it rewarding. Yes. I get a sense of elation from it and self-achievement. And I just think I owe it to myself and the sport of bodybuilding that I took up at the age of 12 to still have that desire. Otherwise, I find it harder, Ron, to actually go and piss about and talk for half an hour, 45 minutes and do a set. That's when I'm going to get injured.
Yeah.
I find that if I'm in that, like me and you have done with back and all the rest of it, when you're in that zone, it's gone in a flash. And then, you know, we'll talk, you know, back at X Club, which is now West Coast, we bit the bar and we're like, fuck, did that just happen? And it wasn't about the weight, it was about the moment. And you'll never get those memories back. You know, I'd never be as strong as you. I could never be as strong as you, but I'd try and break you for intensity, or just, you know, cheer you on and woo and all this business, just to try and get the best out of that possible workout, rather than, you know, just pissing about. for me, it's easy to go in, punish myself, feel fantastic, not for weight, not to injure myself, just that intensity, and come out feeling, fuck, that's as good as I could have done today. And even at 60 now, I still do that, and I still see that in you.
Yeah, that's well. You said a bunch of stuff I totally agree with there, and like we had me and my training partner always have great workouts, but we had a friend of ours join us for legs the other day, and it was super hot. It was 35 Celsius in the
Okay.
gym.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a super hot heat wave. So we were just coming off a couple of days where it was 40 Celsius.
Bloody hell.
And so it was 35 in the gym that day, and we knew it was going to be hard, but none of us, we're all there to train legs, right? And no one's going to be like the guy who's like, man, we should take it easy, And we had just a smoke and leg workout. Like as soon as one guy was out of the machine, the next guy was in the machine.
That's the one.
It wasn't like everyone was trying to draw it out and make it slower. We were trying to keep the pace. Like,
Yeah.
bam, bam, two more plates. Bam, bam, two more plates. Bam, bam, two more plates. Okay, now we're getting into now we're leg pressing. Boom, boom. And going to failure on all the work sets and doing slow negatives. And then guys lifting the hack squat up and dropping it for another negative. Lifting it up and dropping it. And we did a bunch of that shit. And I know that 99.5% of people cannot fucking train like that, especially in 35-degree heat. And we did. We smoked it. And it was, I was like euphoric even after all these years. And I didn't do a single thing in that workout I haven't done a million fucking times. Like the weights, I don't use weights that are big anymore. But it was just the intensity and like the quality of the reps and the little wins. Like, okay, I'm smaller and weaker, but I still have goals. I still want to put a 10-pound plate on the squat machine, not just the plates, but another 10-pounder. Because, I've been doing the plates for a few weeks, but fuck, let's go for it. Let's put that 10-pounder on today and do a set with that, And so that's still in there, and I still love to do it, I don't want to just lift weights and have the people I'm training with be the ones that are, pushing the intensity. Because I still feel like, okay, I'm the old guy, but I still got to keep it up because, and my training partner will say sometimes, like I did a set the other day on the hack and afterwards he was like, that was a fucking and then his next set was his all-time greatest set ever since we started working together.
Yeah.
He got the most reps and they were fucking great. And it was a new PR. So I like to think that part of the reason he got that set was because I was willing to do that.
Well, I think what it is, Ron, I think once you've set that bar for yourself, you can't go back. You can't go back. You know what a shit set is, what a shit workout is, and it will pull people up. And I don't know about you, Ron. I struggle to train with people. If they're just pretending to drop the knee wraps or the wrist wraps just to get some extra rest, I ain't got time for that shit. I'll jump in and do another set, so they're 2 sets behind. I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time for it because it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think, like with yourself, Ron, we've got an example to set. Not an example. We've got an example to set for ourselves, and we've got high standards because we've put the years in. And basically, we just enjoy it. And it's something nice about your training partner getting up to your level, having that same sense of euphoria. You go out back on the car park, you drink your drinks. That's what builds that camaraderie. And the training partners what fall by the wayside. I wouldn't say they were good enough, but they're just not us. They're just not us. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, but it's just the passion, like I look at these things still here now and all these and Robbie and all that stuff. It's still the same for me, and I've still got that. I don't know. When I go into the gym, I'm excited, and say if it is, I don't know, so many degrees, I will say, okay, what we'll do it single-legged today, or we'll do this, and we'll still be killing the next day. Or, do you still phone your mates up and say, how's your back? Are your legs hurting, or how's your
yeah, for sure. And I get a lot of enjoyment. Like I do put some people through workouts. I made arrangements with certain clients where I would, do maybe one workout a month just to make sure that I see them because they live close, so they can actually meet me at the gym. And I'd be like, hey, since you live close, you actually live here, why don't you drop by the gym once a month or come train and I'll meet you for legs and I'll put you through a workout. So I do that with some people. I'm just so limited for time on those. But I definitely like message them like, how are the legs? So I do it to them too. I want to know. And I ask my training partner all the time. Like he'll message me like, my quads are so sore I can't flex them. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you know. So yeah, it's always it's still part of it, and it's I think when you were saying like you got to do it for yourself, there's something you want to do, you want to prove something to yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's that's exactly it. And then if it happens to motivate someone else
That's just
or
fantastic.
inspire someone else, that's like awesome.
Yeah.
I don't expect anyone to give a shit about, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I make sure that I don't ever think anyone cares that I think I train hard, or like, I just sometimes I hear people talk about their training and I'm like, okay, relax, you're not saving the world,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? But at the same time, I'm like, hey, if somebody is motivated by what you're doing, or finds your mindset helpful for them to make better progress, like that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love nothing more,
That's
Ron, than
awesome.
when sometimes you see some newcomers and then we'll be using this certain machine, me and Chunk, and you look to your right, we're going to the next machine, and they look and then they don't say anything and they jump on and have a go. And I think, okay, they're looking, they're watching.
Yeah.
And I remember being that kid and not being able to ask somebody who I thought was a lot better than me. And then I walk up to him, as you know, I would, and right, okay, what you got to bring your elbows in or do this. And that means a lot because I don't know about in your gym, we never had that type of. The boss wouldn't come over and do this or do that. You sort of worked it out yourself. So I have great joy in us helping others now, to get to that intensity level. And also, if I can see them doing something wrong, and showing them as well, and
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
with you, Ron, as well, because you're an approachable type of guy. Do you find that many people in the gym ask you for advice, or do you think that I don't know, they just carry on and do their own thing, or will they ask you how
Certain people, yeah. So there's sometimes it surprises me too. That's the funny thing about like these podcasts and Instagram, and you think that it's certain people that are paying attention, but it'll be something odd. Like I was walking through the gym once and there was this woman. She's a member. I see her often, right? She's really nice, but I didn't think she paid any attention to me or
yeah, yeah,
bodybuilding. And she like stops me and she's like, hey, on your podcast you were talking about how training glutes should be focused on like the big movements, and I've stopped doing all these little band things and I started squatting and lunging and you know what I mean,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
just
yeah,
want to say like my glutes are like, I feel them better, they feel more muscular, my strength is, and I was like, holy shit, you listen to my podcast?
yeah.
Like completely blown away. But that's because I'm so bodybuilding centric in my brain. I think everyone that would even watch would be a bodybuilder. But there's lots of just like people who work out and train hard and they're trying to get results, and they're what I would call recreational bodybuilders. And they might not wear the clothes or go to the shows or know who Brandon Curry is, but they really like working out and they fucking like how their legs look and their arms are coming and people are telling them they look better, and you know what I mean? And I think, they're really important to bodybuilding. They wind up buying the supplements and buying the tickets, and they're most of the people who are watching the podcasts, and they're an important part of bodybuilding. And that's one thing that the gym has really helped me realize. And also too, going to the expos, like you go to the Arnold Classic for the first time and you look around at the crowd and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I am 1% of the supplement industry.
yeah, yeah,
I'm 1% of people who buy protein powder are
yeah,
people
yeah,
like me. Most people who buy protein powder are people like him and her and her and her.
yeah, yeah,
And, so when you live in that bubble of like eat, sleep, train, be 300 fucking pounds, squat 5 plates, win the nationals, eat, sleep, train, blah, blah, blah. That's your bubble, you forget that most of the people who bodybuild, pack meals for work, pay attention to their macros, plan their workouts. Most of them don't do what you do.
No, they don't. But I mean, I don't know about
And
your place, but we've got a lot of youngsters coming through now, real young. You know, they're bringing the parents in for to sign waivers, and that's a great thing, a great thing.
yeah,
And I think, you know, with I'm not, you know, with all these franchise gyms on every street corner, myself and a gym owner like yourself, I was a bit worried at first, but we've got something unique, Ron. We've got something unique. We've got that passion, and I think as the years go on, I think we're going to be all right. I can see the youngsters coming through. Can you see that over there in Canada?
that's like absolutely. And that was like the gamble we took when we opened West Coast Iron. Was I just said this to someone the other day, but one of my favorite quotes, and it's something that I've thought in my head a million times regarding the gym, is if you try to be good for everyone, you wind up being great for nobody.
Exactly.
And so, okay, well, the be good for everyone thing, that's what corporate gyms do.
Yeah.
There's no reason to why would you want to compete with them at a game that you can't beat them at? Like, if you're going to be good for everybody, and then you got to have multiple locations, you got to be open 24 hours. You got to, like, there's all these things that come with it, because if you don't do those things, you can't compete with them because they're already doing them.
Yeah.
But how about you be great, be absolutely great for a certain type of person, and it'll be like literally their number one priority. And that's what we do at West Coast. And it's the gym, like the gym floor, good equipment, crank the tunes, let's get to work. There's a lot of passion in there. Like, I go in there any point in time, there's people training hard. There's people deadlifting, squatting, training legs. Somebody's soaked in the corner. Like, the heavy dumbbells are all on the floor. People are like, there's always people in there working hard. And the rest of the people, like everyone who comes in there, I can't tell you the number of times that I've had members join, and then within a few weeks, they come up and they're like, it is so awesome here. Like, like at first it was kind of loud and there was people like making noise, but now I like love it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's a victory, because like they'll never get that anywhere else. Well, not anywhere else, but you know what I mean? Like, they'll never get that at the local fitness, Fitness Planet or whatever.
I think the way to not analyze, the way to talk about our gyms, we're like a corner shop. That corner shop mentality. Yeah. You're going to come in my gym. I know exactly what Ron Partlow is going to want to drink, what he's going to eat. I'll pretty much know what machine you're going to go on. I know exactly what time you're going to come in. And that's nice. And I always make sure that, that the staff know every single person's name, and it soon becomes a family. And when you fall in love with someone or something, it's hard to leave. And that's nice about Dinos Gym. I mean, we'll talk about that. I mean, I've got so much to talk about, but I think we're going to run out of time. But we can talk about this some other time. Now we know how to get this shit working, which just took me nearly fucking 6 months. But you know at Dinos better than anybody else. I mean, somebody's asked me the question, what does Dinos Gym mean to Ron? And I know the answer to that, but you can tell the listeners and the viewers, yourself when you walk in that
great
gym.
Question. What does Dinos Gym mean to Ron?
And what does Dinos Gym mean to Ron, and how has the Dinos Gym affected your life, if it has at all?
Oh, that's a great question. That's like a spectacular question. It did a lot. I mean, that first episode of Mutant on a Mission to begin with, which I'll tell the story. I don't know if I've ever really told the story of why we went to your gym.
Just quickly, we didn't even think we were worthy of it. I remember me and Kurt, God bless him, we were thinking, oh my God, why us? Is this a joke? And until you actually turned up in the doorway and we filmed you walking in just like the old Arnold clip, we just didn't think it was going to happen. We thought it was just another wind-up because, why us?
So what happened was I pitched the idea to do Mutant on a Mission, and I would go to like all the best gyms, right? And legendary gyms. And like, I pitched the idea. I only had a few gyms in mind at that point, but I just pitched the idea. And I had the name Mutant on a Mission and everything. And Ryan liked it. And he's like, okay, let's try it. He goes, let's do 6 episodes. I'll give you 6 episodes.
Let's just explain to the listeners. So Mutant on a Mission was you going to different gyms around the world.
Yeah, yeah. It was like that show, Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, or whatever,
Okay.
where the guy just goes to like a different dive restaurant every episode, and eats the food, meets the cook, talks to the customers, shows the place, right? And you get the culture, the neighborhood, and you get, all that sort of shit. And Anthony Bourdain had all those travel shows where he would eat food and go see the people and talk to, and I was just inspired by those. I was like, why don't we just do one of these for gyms? And I go like Bev Francis Powerhouse and Gold's Venice and talk to people and interview people. And that was just the idea. And so he said, well, we're going to Body Power. Why don't you call Dorian? And I was like, holy shit. So I get a hold of Dorian. And of course, I didn't know you at the time because I know, you're friends with him, but I didn't know you. I didn't know who you were. I got a hold of Dorian. Dorian responded to me because he's always been nice to me. And I've managed to, like, I already had breakfast with him before, and I'd already talked to Dorian and met Dorian plenty of times. So he knew who I was. He responded. He's like, I love the idea. Cool. Sounds cool. And then he messaged back. He's like, hey, mate, I'm not actually flying in from Spain until like Friday or something like that. So maybe Lewis could do the tour with you. And I remember just being like, oh, well, I mean, obviously Lewis, cool guy. I'd love to, do the tour with Lewis, but it's not what I wanted. I was like, if Dorian's not going to be in it, I'd rather wait and like do it like next year even. Like and so Ryan said, well, why don't you try to find a gym and see if you can find something that would just be cool. And even if it's just a test episode.
Hold on a minute.
That'd be fine.
So basically, fuck me, of all the things. So basically,
no, but this turns out good.
No. So basically,
wait.
Basically, we're second best. Fuck me.
Yes.
I'm
second,
drinking
absolutely.
out of his mug.
Actually, you're the 10th choice. No. So I said, well, I don't really know. And then Matt Sinkerang was on Facebook, and he goes, look at this fucking gym. And I walk over and I look at his screen, and he's like, look at this gym. And he's got pictures of your gym. And I see all the fucking pictures on the walls and the flags and the fucking rusty plates. And I saw pictures of your dumbbells, and they were like those old sliced iron plate British dumbbells welded together.
Yeah.
And I remember, and then I was like, wait. And then I saw you with your Kickin' Ass in 92 shirt. And I was like, that's the owner? That's Dino? And I was like, this guy looks like a character. And I knew, I'm not saying I'm fucking some TV genius, but I know that for a story to have any reason to even do it, there has to be a character, right? You can't just have the manager show the gym. Let's be like a character. And I was like, hey, and I remember we read some of your posts, and I was like, I don't know, you like kicking ass at Dino's, blah, blah. I don't know what you wrote, but I remember thinking like, oh, this could be cool. Like, let's check this out. This gym looks cool. Nick, all the equipment is like super classic, like old school shit. And so Matt goes, well, let's just contact him. And that's how it started. And then I remember we did the episode, we filmed it, and me and Jonathan got back in the car. And I remember it was just a test. Jonathan's like, hey, let's just film this. If this guy turns out to not really be nice or whatever, or easy to talk to, we can always, who knows, right?
Yeah.
We get back in the car. After, and I look at him and I go, you better not lose that fucking card. Because he had the little card.
Yeah.
That had like show on it. I go, you better not lose that fucking card. And he goes, he looks at me and goes, that guy was perfect. And I'm like, he was awesome. That was the easiest fucking thing. Like, we were in shock how awesome, how happy we were with that episode. Like, we drove back to the hotel, like, that guy was fucking perfect. He was such a character. He knew everything. He had so many stories, because the worst thing is someone who doesn't talk on camera.
Yeah.
And you were just unleashing about how you built a gym, and I slept right there, and there was just so much of exactly what we were looking for, like meaningful content, like passion and history, and that part where you said I can't fix a car. I can't fix a roof, but I fucking know gyms. And this is my life. And we just remember thinking it was just perfect. It was perfect. And then when Ryan saw the episode and you and I were cracking all those little jokes, and you were spotting me going, come on, your mother will leave you before I do. I remember that fucking line. I just laughed. And then there was this joke where I can't remember. I'm getting into your pullover, and you said something like, "Oh, it's a tight fit." And I looked at the camera, and go, "That's what she said," or something. I can't remember, but we were dropping like little lines like that, and I just remember thinking like I was so happy that kind of happened that way, and that's how we met. But yeah, so that's the story of that episode, dude. It
It's
just worked out.
it's funny, really. I mean, even from the get go, I know it sounds like a big bromance because people at the gym take the piss out of me and you. It's very rare that you can have two friends or two people where you can. So if you walked into Dino's tomorrow, we're just gonna say we're talking now. We're just gonna carry on talking as if I'd seen you yesterday, and that's very unusual.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
very
yeah,
unusual thing to find.
yeah,
It's
yeah, for sure. And it's people ask me what my favorite gym in the world is, and I just say Dino's now. And it's there's just so much there that I know that no other gym, like I know that nobody's going to build a gym next year that's going to have what you have in 30 years or whatever. Like there's just a period of time that you've captured there that's like, I'm glad everyone goes. So like seeing Body Power kind of blow up, every year we went back for Body Power, your gym got more busier and busier and busier and
Yeah, yeah,
busier and crazier and more nuts. And so that was awesome to see, because even the people who don't, even the people who didn't even get to meet you or know you in the industry, like I've talked to several people, like, they have like big people, they have a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram or whatever. And they're like, yeah, that Dino's gym was really cool. Like, and I go, did you meet Dino? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so they're not being influenced by how interesting you are. They're just talking about the gym. Like you weren't even there when they were there. And they're like, yo, it's fucking cool. And I'm like, yeah, there's something about it. Like it's rough around the edges, which most people just don't get exposed to anymore. But
yeah.
it's really cool. So I like an element of that in a gym. And I think obviously like I'm influenced by a lot of things, but one of the things about your gym that I love is how nothing matches.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you saying that.
Right. And that's always been a thing that I found cool. Like when I look at, um, you know, Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, like a lot of equipment doesn't match in there, but who cares? Like it's all about the piece of equipment, right?
Absolutely.
And it's an anti-commercial look, you know? And and of course with all the flags in there, it's just a very colorful, lively gym. You can't walk into Dino's and be tired. There's so much going on. Like your brain is overloaded. You're like, holy fuck, there's flags from fucking like 100 countries in here, and then endless amounts of stuff to look at. Whereas I find most gyms, you walk into them and they're just so boring.
And I don't know about your gym run. I think I mean, obviously with your passion, yours that's West Coast is going to become the similar thing over the years. It's the characters within the gym. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'll just give you a quick story.
You got the screamer,
Yeah,
you got Leon, you got fuck the young kids in there, the guys that listen to the dance music. You got you got so many funny dudes in there.
so, what the lads are asking, Ron, I was going to talk about your shows, but we haven't got time. I'll tell you what we will talk about first. Your injury. Let's talk about that injury, how it occurred.
Oh,
So, just tell the listeners. I mean, had you done the Vancouver Pro then?
yeah, yeah. I'd already decided I probably wasn't going to compete again, but part of me was like, well, why don't you get back up to 320 and we'll see how you look, and maybe we'll do another show. So that was the plan.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get real big again, and then maybe we'll do another run. That'd be cool. And the goal was like, okay, if you're gonna diet again, you got to do like at least 3 pro shows. You just got to get them out of your system. Pick 3 that are close together. Just do them all, and just be as fucking shredded as you can, and just see what happens. And I was like, okay, that's what maybe I'll do. But I got to get big first. I got to make sure I can get big again.
So
Because my knee had,
when you come off the Vancouver Pro, did you think then, I tell you what, I did better than what I thought, or there's room for improvements, and I can actually, I can knock a few heads over here. Is that what you thought?
no, no, no. I came out to Vancouver Pro and I was like, oh, my body's fucking smashed. I
Okay.
don't think I can do this anymore. Yeah, that was the mentality. My knee hurt. My shoulders both fucking hurt for no reason. Like suddenly, my shoulders were like pretty much indestructible my whole life. They never were a problem. I had like a little bit of an injury once, but it was no big deal. And then that last prep for the 2015 shows, both my shoulders were fucking killing me, and
Okay.
I didn't know why. And I was training very strict on machines and stuff, and they just fucking were killing me. My knee hurt, my hip was fucking killing me, my neck was a huge problem, and I just thought I'm done. But I kind of like rested a while, and I was training and I was thinking, okay, I'm done. And I gave my mind a rest and my body started feeling better. Like my shoulders were better. And I was like, maybe if I get really big again, we can do another run. So I started eating and I started fucking, hitting the sups and I was gaining weight pretty quick. I was like, I started at like 275 and I was like 315 within a few months. And I was like, okay, I'm getting big. And then I blew my quad tendon right off the bone. So, which is the quad attaching to the top of the kneecap. So patella tendon's below the kneecap and the quad tendon's above the kneecap.
And just
So I
tell the
blew the
listeners and
quad
viewers
tendon.
how you did that, Ron.
I was jumping on a trampoline,
Yeah.
which I shouldn't have been doing. But you just don't think like you think, oh, I'll just get on and jump around a bit and like fool around. But you think at 315, the amount of weight when you hit the bottom of the trampoline, if it goes up, what do you weigh? 3,000 pounds? Well,
Yeah, yeah.
can that, and that was already my bad knee. Like I had tendonitis in that spot for years and it just fucking blew, snap. So that was like, ugh. And then I still thought, okay, well, maybe we'll rehab the leg and see how it looks. And I was like on a mission to rehab that leg. Like that leg became my contest prep.
But you was in hospital
That
for a
leg.
long time.
No, no, no. I was only in hospital for the surgery, but
Okay.
I was laid up. Like I was laid up for a month afterwards. I
Yeah.
had my
So
leg up in the air and that sort of thing, and walking around on crutches and stuff. But I was determined to recover as fast as possible. So I remember I called Branch Warren and Branch I said, hey, like what did you do when you tore your quad? And he's like, this is what you do. And he just told me, and it was just super simple. He's like, just rehab your range of motion as hard as fast as you can, and once you can touch your heel to your ass, then you can train. And I was like, oh. And he's like, get your range first, touch your heel to your butt. Once you can touch your heel to your butt, you can load it. Um, and of course, once you can get your heel almost to your butt, that's when you can ride a bike. And once you can ride a bike, man, your recovery just like, it's like, you're recovering like this for the first, I guess mine was 11 weeks. So the first 11 weeks, and then all of a sudden I got my heel to touch my butt. And then I was able to ride the bike every day and actually, start doing reps on an empty leg press, start throwing plates on. And once you do that, it like things come back a lot faster. But it was a rough injury. It was 12 months after I tore it. I squatted 4 plates for, I think I think I just squatted it for 3 reps just to make sure. And I racked it. And that was like 12 months after I tore it. And I was like, fuck, okay, I just squatted 4 plates. I'm gonna be okay. But
what
I'm
about
not
mentally? How did it affect you mentally doing the 4 plates? Was you scared of that going again?
yeah, yeah. There was like every time I got up to a new plate, every time I added a new plate, you had the small amounts of weight or
Yeah,
whatever, and
yeah.
then when you add a new plate, you're like, okay, let's see if this holds. Like there's a little bit of grip it and rip it, you just got to trust your surgeon at that point. But you got to trust your body. You're like, it's healing. It should be healing. I've waited this many weeks. It's been 4.5 months. There's no reason this collagen and all this tendon tissue isn't healed, and there's no reason why it should come off. And you just got to talk yourself, It's just like everything in life. That injury just verified everything. Is when you notice the fear start, the fear comes down to block you, you have to go past it.
Okay.
When the fear comes towards you, you have to like either just go through it, or whatever analogy you want, give it the NFL lineman swim or something. You got to go past it. You can't retreat. You got to go through
You
it,
say you
because
can't run, but some people do. So what separates you from somebody who would just say, "I tell you what, I'm done now. I'm going to take up something else." What separates you from somebody else then?
I well, I mean, I'm not sure what separates. I guess it's just desire to not be done. Or maybe it's I had so much practice confronting fear for so many years, because there were so many times I had to confront fear in the gym,
Yeah,
so many times. Like every single leg day when I was competing, I would be nervous the whole day.
yeah, yeah.
Like the night before, like I remember having a hard time sleeping because I'm like, fuck, I have to leg press tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, and it's like and I'm putting 15 plates aside on. And that's a weight that I have to respect, because something could go wrong, but it's not going to. I'm going to fucking crush it. I'm going to get 10 reps. It's going to be a good day. And I remember being nervous for leg day for years and years and years and years and years, and then still doing it anyways. And I think that's part of the thing that's part of what bodybuilding can give you, part of what athletics gives people, right? Is they have to confront their fears. Like, just like any sport. Like I remember in Taekwondo, bring it back to how we started there. I remember going to a tournament, and my thing was the forms. Like I said, I was really good at forms. I had perfect body positioning. I won gold medals in forms quite often. Even if I was too small to win the sparring, I might get a bronze or a silver in the fighting, but I would win gold in the forms. And I remember, like, I'd be standing off to the side and I'd be watching the other kids do their forms. And like, these are kids from other schools, from other cities all across the country. And some of them are good, right? And you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
some kid go out and his uniform snaps, like with every move, snap, snap, kick, snap, snap. And then you're like, fuck, that kid was pretty much perfect, but I'm going to beat him. And there's just that I'm going to be more perfect. Like there was just that little bit, like you can't doubt. You have to be, no, he was good, but don't doubt yourself. You're going to look better doing the same thing. You're going to do the exact same form, and the judges are going to pick you. And I just remember like feeling that fear, like, holy fuck, this kid's pretty good. And you had to like push it out of you. No, yeah, this kid's good, but fuck, there's no reason he's better than me. I won gold last fucking tournament. Fuck him. Fuck this kid. And I just remember having to like do that. And you have to do that every leg day when you're a bodybuilder. Like, every leg day.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, holy fuck. Like, I gotta step up again. And yeah, it's why we do what we do. And it's interesting. But the confronting fear thing was a big lesson from that injury. It was that injury verified what I think is important in life to be successful. To me, it changed it. That injury changed me for sure, because it opened up my mind to like, holy fuck, like, I'm gonna have to do something else. And I
Did you
have all
actually
this.
think to yourself then, okay, my career as a bodybuilding pro is definitely over now? Did you accept that?
So
Lying in your hospital bed, did you
I
accept that?
Well, no, 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 because I was like rehabbing the leg, and I was like, oh, my leg's getting better, like it's gonna be fine. So maybe I'll do another show,
Okay. Oh,
right?
okay.
But then what happened? Yeah, I was still like hopeful that I could rehab the leg, because that was like another challenge too. I'm like, well, fuck, maybe this will be even cooler if I like get my leg back and like do another show. But then, um, you know, about a year and a bit after I tore it, was it about a year after I tore it, we opened up West Coast. And all of a sudden, I had this massive thing on my mind that I couldn't stop thinking about.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to work on it. And I just wanted to put energy into it. And pretty soon, like within a few months of opening West Coast, I like told Emily, I'm like, I don't give a shit if I ever compete again, ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
and so it was something positive to switch gears into. Yeah.
I can relate to that totally. Sorry to talk about myself, but I remember doing a show and I come third. I perhaps could have got a second, but I knew once I dieting down, like I said to you earlier when we were talking, my hips were wider than my shoulders. They all weren't going to go anywhere. And for a bit, I was like, fuck, I'm not going to be that guy on the wall. I'm not going to do this. Okay, but I get such a joy, like I can feel from you. The gym, for me, surpasses the competing tenfold on a daily, hourly basis. But just quickly, before I forget here, I just want to say now, when your injury inspired so many people in my gym, I can't even get my words out. Leon was one of them because Leon was going through a similar thing. But I will say to you, Ron, your sense of desire and passion to push through that and continue your life and not be negative and still smiling and sending me the videos in the hospital, mate, it meant a lot to a lot of people, mate, a lot of people. So you can take a lot from that, Ron, because for a person of your size, being in the media and on the YouTube and everything else, to think, oh, fuck. But that injury, I think it did you a lot of good, both in your personal life by going into West Coast, realise what's important, if you don't mind saying, like Emily, and your home life and everything else, and not just filling yourself full of gear and training for the fucking trophy and all the rest of it. And then actually now having a lifestyle within a lifestyle, so you're still competing in your head on a daily basis with yourself and inspiring other people and members and your training partners alike. But that injury, I think, did you a great thing, Ron. I think, you might have gone down a different path, and I wouldn't say you'd have hurt yourself, but you might have perhaps been following a dream. What may not have been there, Ron. I'm not trying to say you wouldn't have got there, but may not have been there.
Well, you never know too. It just changes your path. Like, I wouldn't want to change my path. That's why I don't like adjusting anything. Like, would you change anything? Well, no. If you change one little thing, it might fuck it all up. So, you got to take everything.
But that injury, it inspired a lot of people in our gym, and they were like, look at Ronnie, he's on the leg press, or look at Ronnie, he's walking, look at Ronnie. It inspired a lot of people, Ron, so you've got to take a lot of heart from that. And that's a real good thing, mate, a real good thing.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I certainly didn't want to be, I remember thinking consciously, oh, well, part of you wants to just not post anything until you're recovered, right? Just wants to be like, oh, I'll just shut down and I'll post in like 6 months or something.
Is that because you're not the Ron you was? Is that because you wasn't the Ron you was before the injury, and you felt a fear of perhaps being a little bit not inadequate or a little bit?
Oh no. I think I was thinking more of like how Dorian used to not post pictures.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna fucking show these people. I'm gonna once I squat 4 plates, I'll post a video. But that might be a year fucking away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I can't just like not talk about it. So I was like, maybe I can like help someone and then I was blown away. As soon as I started posting about it, I started getting all these messages like, I just blew my quad. I just blew my quad. I just blew my knee. I just blew my patella. I just ripped my tricep. I just ripped my pec. Like, all these people started messaging me, and then it became like a way that I could kind of, be positive about it. So yeah, I hoped something positive would happen, and it happened right away. As soon as I started talking about it, all these people started messaging me, and it was like, oh, okay, this is a good thing.
Well, when we spoke about this at the gym and trying to get this first podcast out of the way, obviously getting you on, first thing Leon said at the gym, can you just tell Ron, how it inspired me when he was in the deep depths of his despair, and looking at you then thinking, right, he's a 300-pound dude, I can get through this shit, and he has. So, that's a great thing, Ron. But just moving on quickly, because otherwise we're going to be here all night. What's with the BMXs, Ron? What the fuck's going on with the BMXs? You're the big dudes to be doing.
Yeah, I know. I always loved, obviously I'm, the right age. I saw Rad when I was 11, and, that was like the first time I saw BMX freestyle, and I was like, holy shit, and guys doing tricks on bikes. And I just remember thinking it was super cool. And I was already into BMXs, I'm racing around, jumping dirt, doing dirt jumps and stuff.
Okay.
And then right after I saw Rad, I saw there was my school, and then just down the block there was the high school, right? So there was like grade 1 to 9, And then just down the block was, the grade 10 to 12. And I remember, I guess I would have been in like grade 6 or something. But I remember walking past the high school and seeing this guy on an 85 Haro Master, lime green 85 Haro Master, doing these hop whips. He was like hopping in one spot doing tail whips. And he was just doing them like he did like 20 in a row, like just hop, 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 and then back. And just and he's stepping over it. And everyone was like, his buddies were like cheering him on. And then some other guy was doing like spinning things on his front wheel. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And so I immediately wanted a freestyle bike. I was like, hey, I got a BMX, but I got to get like pegs, and I need like a gyro for my back brake cable. And I got to like, and so right away I was in, started buying all the magazines, and I started like, what is this? Like, what is this world? Like, okay, what is this? What's this ad? What's this? And it was like, just like how we are at the Muscle Mags. We read every single thing, right? So I was just going through those magazines like crazy, buying BMX Plus and Freestyling magazine and all this stuff. And I quickly realized that back then we didn't use the term because everyone was just a freestyle rider. You just rode everything. You rode ramps, you rode dirt, you rode flatland. But I right away realized that it was like the ground tricks that I really liked the most. And I got pretty good. Like I, got a better bike, started riding with some guys I met in in high school or junior high, and they were in high school. So these older guys that were better, and I started riding with them and started progressing. And then of course I found like football and the weight room and everything. So I, started riding the bike less and less and less. And then by the end of high school, I hadn't, I sold my bike and I wasn't doing tricks on bikes anymore. But I always loved it. So every once in a while, I'd stop by the magazine rack and I'd pull off whatever magazine there was for BMX, and I'd look through it and see what the bikes look like, and what's the kit look like, check it out, see what they're doing, and I could see the progression. Like there'd be pictures in the magazine, like, oh, what's that? Oh, they're fucking good now. Like, the skill level, was going higher, and then there was. And then the X Games came. Remember, the X Games were on TV for a while, so it was like, the industry was obviously growing, and it was a little more access to watch it. And then YouTube in 05. I remember when YouTube started, I started like looking up flatland, and watching all these flatland videos. So I always loved it, and I used to always like imagine, like, I wonder how good I'd be if I would have kept riding, like 20 more, another 30 years of riding. Like, I wonder how good I'd be. And then, I found myself during COVID looking at all these BMX pages on Instagram. And the initial idea was that I was going to buy a vintage Haro Master frame, like a late 80s Haro Master.
Yeah.
And just hang it on my wall.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm going to get like a really nice condition. Maybe I'll have it repainted. Maybe I can get it original paint or whatever. And I'll get a cool like vintage 80s bike and I'll hang it on my wall. And then that progressed to, well, maybe I'll like build a full bike and hang it on my wall.
Can you actually work on them as well, Ron? Do you know how to, can you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
I built my bike. Oh yeah. I built my bike myself. Yeah. I did everything on it. So I started thinking, I'll just build a bike. And then I started thinking, well, maybe if I build a bit newer bike, I can actually like take it out for a ride. And I was like, I'm not going to want to ride it. I'm going to want to do tricks on it. I was like, I wonder if I can do tricks. And then I started thinking.
What did Emily say about all this?
She was just like, kind of rolled her eyes and was like, hey, do whatever you want. And then one day she came home and I was sitting on the computer and I go, hey, I did something today. She goes, what'd you do? And I said, I ordered a frame. And she's like, so now it's on. I said, now I have to order everything now because I can't just have a frame. I got to build a bike. So then next day I'm like, I ordered, 5 things today. And then the next day I was like, okay, I ordered 3 more parts and then 2 more parts. And then I slowly, everything came in and it was the thing was it was the great COVID. They call it the great COVID bike build.
Oh, okay.
And it was a world shortage of BMX parts. So it was a brutal time to try to build a bike because all production was shut down and shipping was brutal because of COVID. and and everyone sitting on their ass had sparked a bike building trend. So all these people were building bikes. So bikes were being built for exercise because the gyms were closed,
Yeah, yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And just bike shops couldn't mail products out fast enough, and they were running out of everything. And it was a funny time to build a bike. So I just got into it. And then once I had it built, I thought, fuck, I guess I'm gonna try to do some tricks. And
Did you build it yourself?
oh yeah, yeah, put it together myself. Yeah.
Not in the
Oh
living room,
yeah,
surely. Where did you build it?
yeah, right on the kitchen table.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Really?
Oh
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. I'm taking over the kitchen. Yeah, I'm taking over the kitchen today. Today's the day it goes together. You know,
But I've been
I built it all at once.
But I've been watching you run, and you're good, mate. I mean, I watched a great video on Instagram. I don't know, a couple of weeks back, and you were in there, and the kids started cheering, or you did a little bit of a trick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of funny. It's whenever that you're talking about that's this spot in this park that we go to once in a while. And I always get really nervous when we ride there because there's people around. Because like I've got all these private spots, like industrial parking lots I can go to, and I can like fuck around on something for hours and no one sees me. So it's all fun and games to pull tricks off in front of people, right? It looks pretty cool, but they don't see how many attempts it takes to pull tricks off, and they don't see how hard it is and how many hours of like not pulling it off and how many, like I might try, there's some things I probably attempted them hundreds of times, and then finally you pull one off. You're like, okay, good. Okay, we got one. So that's like another 100 attempts before you get the second one. And then maybe another dozen attempts before you get the third one. And you slowly get better at it, right? So when you've been working your ass off and you've only got like 6 or 7 good tricks, and all of a sudden there's a crowd. You're like, oh fuck. So it's funny because there's been 2 times when I've had to step up and perform in front of a crowd. And I haven't had to do that since I was on like a bodybuilding stage, right? So it's kind of like, I was like, oh shit, like this is an unusual position for me to be in. This one time, it was back in like April, we were riding in front of this restaurant. There's like this really great spot to ride. And the lineup for the restaurant can watch, they can see you. And the 2 guys I ride with are really good, right? Like they've been riding, one guy's been riding for 37 years. Like he's awesome. He fucking does the craziest tricks. And so they're really good. So these 2 guys come out of the restaurant and they got a camera with them. Like they're actually, they said they're like documentary film guys and they'd been filming all day, but they're like, can we take some pictures and video of you for our Instagrams? And the guys I'm with are like, yeah, sure, no problem. And they're like, okay. So the one guy goes first and he pulls off like this crazy trick. And then they're like, okay, your turn. And the next guy goes and he pulls off this like big link of like 6 tricks, right?
Shit.
And then they're like, okay, you're up. And the backstory is I had been having a terrible night. I'd been there for like an hour and I hadn't pulled a single trick off yet. I was having a problem. I was like, I think I drank too much caffeine because I kind of had like shaky hands, and I was like, fuck. And then everybody looks at me, like the whole restaurant lineup, both my buddies and these 2 guys with cameras. They're like, hey, your turn. And I had not pulled off a single trick that night. And I was like, fuck, do or die. And I was like, okay. So I just like took a second. I just cleared my head. And I just thought, okay, I'll just go for the hardest trick I know. And at the time it was this one like kind of 3-trick combo thing. And I'll just go for it.
What was it called?
Fucking the trick? Went for it. Well, you call it a fire hydrant into a swivel into, I don't remember what you call it. It's kind of 3 tricks, but yeah. Anyways, so I just rolled out and fucking whipped around, rolled it, snapped it, hit the brake, and rode out. Pulled it off. And I was like, holy fuck, that felt good. I was having a shit night, couldn't pull anything off. I was getting frustrated. And then with the pressure was on and all these kids were watching, I fucking pulled it off. It was like, I was laughing to myself afterwards. I'm a 45-year-old man. And I was laughing to myself on the drive home at how good it felt to pull that trick off when the pressure was on. And I realized it had nothing to do with showing off. It had nothing to do with showing the kids. or that I cared about these guys. It was that I rose to the occasion.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that is. You could remove the bikes and the crowd and the restaurant, and you could insert any other scenario. Whenever you're presented with a chance to quit, I could have said, "Oh no, I'm not doing. It's okay, guys." You know, I could have said, "I'm just gonna take a break." You know, I could have said, "No, no, these guys are better than me. You got the video you need. I'm good." I could have said that, but I didn't. And I remember laughing at how proud of myself I was that I rose to the occasion, because it's such an insignificant, you pulled off a trick on a fucking bike, but that's not what it's about. It's about overcoming that mental moment where you're like, fuck. And then it happened a second time in that video you're talking about. We were riding and I was having a good day. I pulled off lots of tricks, but there was this one trick that I just started learning a few months ago. And I can only pull it off like 1 out of 10 times.
And were the kids already there, or was you practicing and the kids turned up?
They weren't there. Yeah. Yeah, they weren't there yet. No one was there yet. And I'd pulled off everything I knew, except I was having a hard time with this trick. I must have tried it 30 times.
Okay.
Every time my turn came up, I'd go out and I'd take my 3 tries and I just couldn't pull it off. And my buddies were even saying, "Oh, you probably just," because there's kind of a rule, like, if you work on a trick for more than 20 minutes and you can't pull it off, you probably just move on for the day, because you'll start like fucking up and you might even wipe out. You know what I mean?
Are you one of the biggest guys there? You've got to be.
Oh yeah. Like no one's my size. So I was having a bad day with this trick. And then all of a sudden these kids, there was like this family of 5. And then on the other side of the circle, there was like a group of like 7 people. And then there was a couple of kids on bikes on the other. So there was a bike, kind of a group showed up, and the exact same thing. My 2 buddies went, and they saw the crowd, so they went to their A list of tricks, right? They're like, "Oh, the crowd's here, so I'll pull off the stuff that I'm fucking 10 out of 10 on," right? So they roll out the big 2-minute link with all the tricks and just dazzle everybody, and then everyone looks at me, and I'm like, "Fuck, here we go again." Well, there's only one way to do this. I said, I got to fucking nail it. Like, I have to. So I just, like, same thing. I took that moment to, like, kind of close my eyes, and I was just like, okay, I know what to do. I know where to put my head. I know what to look at. You know, those little things.
Yeah.
And I rode out and whipped it, and it was a sketchy one. I barely landed it. Like,
I've seen it. I watched it, yeah.
Like, I didn't touch the, because it's all about you want to touch the ground. If you touch the ground, it doesn't, right? That's the thing, right? You got to pull it off. And it was just the same thing. I was like, there we go. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I think that having something in your life where you challenge yourself is very important.
It is.
And and even if it's just something minor, like it's just an important thing to remind yourself of.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, this is now my passion for the next few years at least. To talk to people like yourself, because me and you've spoke for years, but we've never sat down and spoke like this. Because I want to know.
No.
And it's nice. And for me now to set this up, and the little drama we had earlier, trying to get the link on and all that, it's a big deal for me. And I like to be out of my comfort zone, whether I'm training with someone like yourself or whether it's you need that in life, otherwise you're not living, Ron. But to see a big guy like yourself on there, I thought it was so comical at first. I thought, what the fuck's he doing? But now I know the backstory. But the reason you can pull those tricks off, and the reason you can get out your hospital bed and do what you did, and the reason you get West Coast with your co-owners, and the reason you do so well is because you run Partlow, and it's your mindset, mate. And that's it's a commendable thing, son. And whether it's riding the shitty BMX bike and doing it all up and building it, and and just having that sense of I don't know, accomplishment and achievement. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean fuck all. It doesn't, but to you, it means everything, and that's a great, great thing, Ron.
I appreciate that, Dino. It's been great talking to you, and I'm happy to be on the show. And like you said, we don't get a chance to sit down and chat like this, so it's been awesome.
Well, no, we'll do it a lot more, but we'll just wind it up in a little bit, because I don't know how long we've been on here. Fuck knows. But in one word, what would sum up Ron Partlow in one word?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I almost say simple because I just like everything simple, you know? Simple, basic. I don't know.
No, you're more than
Um,
simple.
no, I like things to make sense, you know? It's hard. One word. I guess I've always just done what I've had passion for, you know? If I have no passion for something, I just can't do it. Like for any sort of, length of time. I could do it for a while, but like if I don't have passion for it, like I don't have time for this.
So if we talk about
And
Ron
and it's
Partlow
so
in one word, is the word passion? Is that what we're saying?
I guess. I mean, I hate to use that word because it seems like, cliche, but
No, it doesn't.
I guess that's just it. Like I've always just done what I wanted to do, you know? So yeah, you put your time into things that are important to you, and I think happiness will come, you know? Try to be a good example, of what you're doing. If you like to do something, try to be a good example of that thing. And I think a lot of good stuff comes from that.
I think when I walk around the gym and talk about Ron Partlow, firstly everybody smiles, and then everybody just says he's a good bloke. And I don't think it gets much better than that, Rod. So, you know.
I appreciate that.
Listen,
There we
Ron,
go.
it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. Thanks for joining me, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Dino.
We'll definitely talk again.
I
And
appreciate it.
and listen, you guys and girls, make sure you follow this dude at Rep300. He's one of the handsome bastards you could ever meet. Ron, we're out of here. Go and have a piece.